This time I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Kopczynski.
A neighbor of mine, Edward Johnson, at 29 Maryland View, was concerned about the building being built behind him on River Road, next to their house. I'm sure they know what's going on.
Is the mic on?
Can't hear you.
Mr. Kopczynski, can you speak into the mic?
Edward Johnson, neighbor at 29 Maryland, concerned about new construction at 1212 River Road next to the mayor's house. Behind his house. We wrote a letter to the mayor on June 11th, and he got to address it to the mayor and council. And he asked me if I would come. He couldn't attend the meeting, thanks to course, if I would piss letters out to the mayor and council. To give him more informed an idea what's going on. Plans for this new construction was received in the building department on 1/30/12. Building permissions were issued a couple of days later to 1/12. Then, after that, the garage plans were approved, the plans were revised and approved on 4/20/12. I went down before the Memorial Day weekend to look at the plans, spent over an hour and a half there. I found all these violations, over 35 feet at any one point, the zoning ordinance was violated.
I'd like to ask council if that is something that's acceptable or done before, where a different taxpayer can come in representing another taxpayer.
I don't believe he's allowed to represent anyone. He's got 5 minutes. Normally, correspondence gets filed with the clerk and it gets distributed in due course. Mr. Kopczynski has asked to hand it out, and I guess he wants to make a point about something, but I don't think he can, really represent anybody. To the extent that he wants to express his sentiments, I guess he can do that.
Go ahead, Mr. Kopczynski.
We came down the week before Memorial Day weekend, looked at the plans, I found these violations. The height of the building was over 35 feet at one point, which is a violation. The average height was over 32 feet, which is a violation. The basement is over 12 foot in height, making it a story. Structure on the roof, not allowed. Total stories, 4, including structure on the roof. 2.5 stories allowed. Room on roof, 400 square feet, 10 feet high. Not allowed. Zoning chart and the plans were not true. I spent an hour and a half, and I asked to see John about these violations I found. And John said, "Oh, you got the wrong plans." In my office, so he presented the new plans. It appears I came down the next day to look at the new plans, and it looks like it just backfilling all around the building, trying to bring it into conformity with our zoning. But even the new plans still have major violations, as explained in Mr. John's plan. When the plans were received and approved on February 1st, foundation was put in with the basement, which was 14 feet in height, maximum was allowed 12, which made it another story. And that still exists. So the new plans sort of show that we were going to try to backfill all around the building. Also, there are porches in the side yards, which are not allowed. They're still in compliance. The revised plan showed the front of the house was River Road with 14 foot high, with doors, 2 doors on each side, entering into the front yard. The revised plan is showing now the doors almost cut in half and trying to bring 14 feet down to around 10 feet. But as of today, the doors have been installed, which are a revised stone violation, like it's not following the revised plans. I handed a copy of Mr. Johnson's letter to each one of you. I just want to inform you, each council member is responsible for the enforcement of the zoning laws of Edgewater. You put your hand in the Bible and take an oath of office. When one official doesn't do his job, it is your task to take up the ball and make sure the violations are looked into and enforced zoning codes. I mean, it's getting to be just south of Glenwood Avenue, about 3 houses down. There's another building the same type, and you look at the height of that, that's a violation of the zoning that was approved by the road. And it's too late now to do anything about that one. And I just want to make sure something's done about this one, because the builder owns 4 pieces of property on Edgewater Avenue, right across in front of Mr. John, and one a couple houses up. So this doesn't happen again. But I challenge every council member to look at this and give their opinion on it. And if one zoning office is not following the law, you people are supposed to pick up the law and be responsible to enforce the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Anyone else wish to be heard? Mary?
Gary Levine, 606 Article Ben. Are you going to have your conference with Mr. Wilcox? He's on the agenda.
He's on the
not here,
agenda.
is he?
He's not here because I put it on the agenda with the, I presumed he was going to be here. Doesn't need to be here.
No, I just meant to see going to come home.
He won't be here this evening.
No conference call in there,
So
but
I put
the
him
July
on the
meeting
list.
will be here.
Yes.
Yes, you're going to pass it tonight, right?
This is an amendment. The budget, the adoption will be at the next meeting.
But you're going
Adoption
to
of the
adopt the
budget.
resolution tonight in terms of sending out the tax bills and what the tax bills are going to be.
The tax bills will be adopted tonight.
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
but he will be here to speak on it in terms of how you got to that figure in terms of the budget.
Won't be here for the, he won't be here long.
But that's, I just wanted to.
Yes.
I also wanted to, I see you have a group of resolutions. Is 23 going to be approved tonight, Barbara?
Sorry, Mary. Number 23?
193, no, I'm sorry, the one that you haven't copied.
Yes.
So that's going to also be on there.
If the council, sure, it's still listed, to be hopefully adopted.
Okay, so it's on.
I would presume that the council may, it's possible they could pull it separately. Yes, it's on the list.
There are certain resolutions on here that you probably should pull and vote independently, because even though I know in the past you've been doing them as a group and not separating them out, because there's at least one where members of this board have a conflict in terms of voting on it. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that and that you pull those appropriate resolutions and vote on them separately. I know it's only for introduction today, this ordinance, but I was wondering if you could give me a summary as to where the Orchard Street no parking zone, no stopping, no standing zone, and the no parking zone on Undercliff Avenue is going to be.
I went over with Joe, Mary. Along the northern side of Orchard Street from a point 123 feet west of the westerly curve of River Road to a point 125 west thereof, between the hours of 7:30 and 3:30 p.m. on Monday through Friday during the school year.
Any other? Is that also up in by the school?
Yes. Undercliff Avenue, east, 7:30 to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday during the school year. From the northerly curve of Orchard Street to a point 205 feet north thereof.
So it's going to be similar to the EDG.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
caucus meeting, I made the statement that former Mayor Mercer cast a deciding vote on the acceptance of the MUA transfer. You said, I think you're wrong, and I was wrong, Mayor. You were correct. It did occur, finalized in '07, which it was a straight party line vote with the Higbee's representatives voting against the biggest cost-saving factor in the past 12 years, and Democrats going along. By the same token, that particular night, May 24th, the DCUA did accept the bids. There's my understanding that the overflow drainage, storm drains, was accepted for 13.2. It was bid for maximum receipt 13.5. And 2 years prior, the engineering cost 2.2. So that's almost $15.5 million, besides the $1,147,000 that you're saving this year because of your actions back then on the schedule of savings that was submitted by the DCUA and the financial offices. You saved $17 million that was transferred, plus the $15.5 million, over $32 million. The largest savings since phasing out the paid fire department, if you want to count those years to date. So when people come up and talk about savings, particularly the most precipitous opponents, they should reflect on their own former actions. Second of all, am I correct when I read in the current news, the record, that the cost per student for Edgewater is $17,000? That was roughly a week to 10 days ago, where they had a chart for all the educational districts.
Yes, I believe Edgewater was 17,000.
Well, another argument that you folks will get hit with is the cost of education and the draw on local finances from particular developments. All you have to do is look at Avalon, that was championed by the independent coalition. It went from 71 students to 90 to 100. At that rate, you're over the amount totally dollar realized from that project. This year you're getting $1,480,000 in rental fees because it's a rental. Check your book. You're over $151,500,000 at 90 students, and at $1,700,000 for 100 students. You're spending $1.22 for every dollar you take in at the 100 student level, and $3.5 at the 90. When your tax rate for the last several years, when you break down, it's 38.5% to 39%. No wonder why it's a draw on. You can't have low rise on a high density dwelling. It attracts students where a high rise is not. So when you hear this from various opponents of yours, let them reflect on their own actions. Thank you.
Valerie.
Valerie Martinez, 16 Hudson Terrace. I'd just like to first clear up some misstatements recently by a member of the public. As far as the BCUA or MUA cost savings, that was a one-time supposing of a cost savings of $1 million, which we never did see. In fact, my taxes have raised, and 99% of homeowners before the reassessment have seen their taxes, property taxes, increase consistently every year. That's not hyperbole. These are facts. Just go to the tax office, which I know I don't have to tell you guys that. Several of you are homeowners, you see your tax bill. The other thing is the ICBE never advocated for Avalon. In fact, it was quite opposite. We understand, we've said year after year that that development, you do not recoup the taxes you put out. You can go back and just read our past literature. It's really easy. We usually always, when we run a campaign, run it on facts. Now, I understand you have a resolution when you're going to discuss Resolution 2012-184 Winterburn Place pilot. And I know Mary Hogan just suggested that some members abstain. In fact, probably the majority of council people should abstain because you directly or indirectly do have a connection to Mr. Diabetes, whether it's a family member who works for Mr. Diabetes, or a family association, or just good friends and you've stayed in his residence throughout the country on various occasions, or perhaps maybe you were in a business transaction with him. I'm not going to name names, but I do know who you are. I'd just like to read a little statement about ethics. And I understand for the new council people, and maybe some of the previous council people, there is a course that the borough will pay for you for first-time elected officials. It's really informative. It tells you these little nuances that maybe you wouldn't ordinarily, the average person, you have no other reason to know that stuff unless you take these courses. A public servant is held to a higher standard of ethical behavior than a private citizen. Conflicts of interest, whether real or perceived, are not only in the eye of the official, but in the perception of the public. And perception is a key word. Perception doesn't, it could be actual or perceived. If an elected official has a personal or financial interest that is consistent with this conflict exists, excuse me, I'm not feeling too well here. The law speaks to perception of conflict of interest. The local government ethics law, excuse me, is attached here, but if you'd like to write it down, and I'm sure your borough attorney can guide you to it. It is NJSA 40A:9-22(1), and it will outline everything that has anything to do with ethics in your votes. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an actual conflict. It could be a perceived conflict. The other thing, I was away, and I understand, Mr. Mayor Delaney, you sent a letter to the colony claiming that if they vote for Mary Hogan, you're going to lose the docks. Again, we deal in facts. Here's a letter that we sent to Mr. Rodriguez from to the DEP on June 30th, 2010, and I know the letter because I wrote it. The last paragraph says, "It seems to us that the solution to this problem could and should be simple and minimal, and not involve mistaken facts or inaccurate penalties. Everyone is and has always been amenable to the colony keeping the docks that currently exist. There is no reason to lose more precious open space to accomplish that and open the colony and the borough to a host of other potential consequences." You can't claim you didn't know, Mayor. You knew. Councilman Bedell recently told somebody that the problem with our group is that we're disgruntled. No, we're not disgruntled. We're educated and we're informed. We have never come here before you with a problem that we didn't have the facts. In fact, here's the State of New Jersey Office of Controller's Office, municipal tax abatements, tax breaks. That's the state of New Jersey. Here's one on inequitable tax assessments. Remember City Place we told you about? State of New Jersey, their report. Here's one, procurement report, overbilling by the borough attorney. Facts, facts, not disgruntled, educated facts. Have a good
anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Henry.
It's Michael Nino, 6 and Nut Avenue, Edgewater, New Jersey, 07020. I'd like to sit, I've been coming here decades.
With the mic.
Request for information.
I'll do it.
Give me a little leeway on my time for this.
Hold on.
You have 5 minutes, Mr. Henry.
Make sure you're tuned in.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're tuned in.
It works, okay. Michael Nino, yeah. I've been coming here for multiple decades, mainly trying to get disclosure. I've been most unsuccessful with your predecessors and with you. All your promises have not been fulfilled to me. You were going to get the colony attorney to look into why it is that he was not objecting to the use of borough property to be used to trespass upon the colony. You are going to get him to look into and comment on why it is that there is abuse of the owned acreage that they call riparian land, which has been held by the borough since 1939 exclusively for borough citizenry, not for a select few in the colony who might generate votes, but still remain as a compact select few to the exclusion of those other people in Edgewater who are residents, who pay taxes, and who endure all this malperformance that ought to be in their interest. And you particularly have specific knowledge, as I said at the last meeting, of the requirements of Edgewater Colony Incorporated, its purpose. You have tolerated a conflict of interest on one of your members here from day one. He's the one who engineered, in cooperation with the NJDEP, an okay for people who had no authority whatsoever to give somebody else's land away to be abused and violate its purpose. So I'd like to ask tonight that you take interest in these matters that you've ignored so far. Cease this trespassing immediately and have it not continue. And there's another thing, there are dangers in the colony which your officialdom has ignored, Mr. Kilgalmo in particular. My electric pole supplying 220 volts to my house was knocked down by 2 falling trees across the stream, rooted in my neighbor's yard, not even my yard, knocking down my air conditioner, my gutters, requiring a new roof, right to the skylight, doing various other damages, but putting me at risk of my life. There's still up there 3 trees immediately across on the stream from my backyard with one root, and they're leaning over precipitously over my backyard and over the edge of my house, and where I sit out to get a piece of sunshine. The only health thing that I can get these days. It is an extreme danger. I've been promised every week that it would be done next week. It is not done next week. Under Mr. Kilgalmo's supervision, that broken pole, which supplies the oxygen that I am required to have 24/7, it will cease to operate. I'll be without oxygen. That's obviously life-threatening. This thing, Mr. Kilgalmo came up, I was not present, and he was there supervising public service electric and gas, and they're tying that mast together with tie wrap, which is a kind of plastic, and with a rope to secure the top of it to have it almost perpendicular. That was tied to a 2025 beautiful pine tree. For whatever reason, the pine tree is gone, but they left the stump to hold the rope. That pole is broken again, and it's leaning over. I've told public service about it late this afternoon, actually, and they will come again because they got some sweet talk from the colony that everything is fine. There's a gas line coming into the colony that's been there for between 40 and 60 years. Somebody sweet talked public service and directed the gas. There is no smell of gas. I did not complain about the smell of gas. I complained about the fact that there is a naked, unprotected 12 to 14-inch pipe just clad with insulation tape under the bridge that continues to fall down piece by piece, which are taken out of the stream, rocks that are part of the bridge. They put signs up there, no trucks over 5 tons. They've torn down the iron, galvanized iron, that would prevent anybody from falling over onto the rocks below that killed that poor unfortunate boy that fell over the Palisade cliffs up on the north end. This can easily happen here. The roads are narrower than are required in the colony. One guy, because he was a trustee, you can walk up and that avenue and see it. See where the electric pole is. These poles are placed on the edge of the road. But this guy wanted a bigger front yard. Because he was a trustee, he figured he could get it. He was right. He did get it. Now the wall is in the middle, about 1/3 into the street. Guess what? The colony is going to widen the streets. I don't know whether it will be exempt or not, because apparently he had permission to do that. So the conflict of interest continues. The people of this town, you have no authority, Mayor, none whatsoever. Neither does any member of this board, including the attorney, to give away this riparian land, which is held for the citizenry of Edgewater, and again, not for select few.
Mr. Henry, your time is up.
Yeah, I didn't tell about the no audit that was never done by him or anybody else, but I'll be back to get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Anyone else wish to share? Seeing none, I'll close the open portion of the meeting.
Mayor, I would suggest that the letter that was handed out, maybe that should be forwarded to Mr. Kendall, so they could review that and respond back to us.
We can't hear you. Could you repeat that, please?
At the same time, I had spoken to Mr. Kopczynski on Friday, and I was going to have John come up and personally go over his concerns and Mr. Evan Johnson's concerns.
Yeah.
I mentioned possibly having Negley Engineering there as well.
Yeah, there's some strong language in this letter, and there's a suggestion that somebody's not doing their job. I would dispute the statements that governing body is responsible for enforcing the zoning. That is handled, obviously, by the building code official. That's his responsibility. And so, based on this letter, I think it would be appropriate to take a look at it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment that with regard to the resolutions coming up, there's some pretty smart people up here too. We know what resolutions need to be pulled and not voted on when appropriate. We don't need lectures on ethics. I take objection to that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Can I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of May 21st, 2012, regular and closed, and May 24th, 2012, special?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second by Councilman Rose.
Roll call.
Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vendel?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Abstain.
And Councilwoman Rose?
Yes.
Councilman, motion passes.
Proceed to bids.
Mayor, we went out to bid for the marina dredge
Can't hear you.
We received 0 bids for the marina dredging. And I believe the borough administrator has a resolution you'd like to offer, which I'll read aloud. Is now the appropriate time? It's to authorize to negotiate for Edgewater Marina dredging. Whereas the borough authorized the bidding of the Edgewater Marina dredge material transportation and disposal be received on May 18, 2012. And whereas as a result of no bids received on May 18, 2012, an authorization to rebid was approved by resolution on May 21, 2012. And whereas an invitation for bids to be received was held on June 5, 2012, and whereas no bids were received upon the second advertisement and subsequent receipt on June 5, 2012. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with NJSA 40-11 of the local public contracts law, the borough of Edgewater may enter into negotiations with vendors to perform the Edgewater Marina dredge material transportation and disposal. And that would need an introduction, Mayor. Introduced by Councilman Jordan, seconded by Vidal and Rose. Okay. Any discussion, Mayor?
Yes. You know, this project is really moving along in a great direction. The equipment we have, the dedication the guys are doing down there. The final piece is the barge for the massive removal. We have to have it. We have to go out and negotiate and get that done so we can start getting the revenues that are appropriate for the marina and put it in the black.
Anyone else? Roll call?
Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Rose?
Yes.
Motion passes. The second, Veterans Field bids were received. 5 bids were received. The base bids range from $6.9 million to $11.9 million. There's an amending an award resolution 2012-192 listed on this evening's agenda to the lowest bidder for the base bid of 6.9 Mayor. And that's all I have in terms of bids.
Next, moving on, we have adoption and public hearing of ordinances. Ordinance number 1472, 2012. An ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 432 of the Borough Code regarding a traffic control signal monitoring system. This time I'd like to open it up to the public on 1472, 2012. Anyone wish to be heard? Dennis?
Dennis Geller, 18 Arlington Terrace. Second.
They can't hear you.
Dennis Gallagher, 18 Arlington Terrace. I just know what I've seen in the papers. And it's not that, it's not that clear as to exactly, it seems like you're doing at least 11 places where you're going to put these traffic monitoring places. Is that correct?
Well, what we're doing, Dennis, is we're opening the possibility of having 11 locations. Right now, we originally went for, I believe, Hilliard.
Yes.
And what we decided to do, right now, I don't believe the state's approving any of them, but we decided to go back and amend it so we could open it up because we were thinking maybe there were better intersections that we could have the cameras set up for. And, you know, everybody had a different opinion, so we're just looking to add to the list. As far as having
So are you
11,
just really evaluating this as a prospect, or are you committed to doing
right now, we're trying to move forward with it. I don't believe the state's issuing any cameras right now for intersections, but we're just moving forward so if they finalize their problems they have with it, we can be ready to go
it?
forward.
Okay, to what degree is this actually a safety thing, and or alternatively, a revenue device, revenue I know that specifically up in Englewood Cliffs, they already the main intersection up there, that they've pursued something like this, and if you don't come to a complete full stop, you're gonna get a ticket for it, and it's not cheap, and there's a lot of this that goes on where it's gotcha kind of stuff. I don't know that it fosters safety or anything like that, and I just got a bad feeling about it, that this town is committed to go ahead with a big project with at least 9 places that if you can get it approved. You haven't done a pilot project, you haven't tried it out at a single place, as far as I know. I think you'd be better advised to just go at this a little bit more slowly and see the actual results of one place, maybe 2 places in town. But I think, unfortunately, it seems to me that the biggest thing you're after here is money. And you just collect money from people who are out of town. I don't think it's fair. It's not good government. It shouldn't be this way.
Thank you, guys. Anyone else? Mr. Henry?
I'd like to just ask if Annette Avenue is one of these locations at which one of these lights will be placed.
I don't believe it was, Mr. Henry. Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the open portion of the meeting.
Mayor, if I may, just to clarify, the ordinance now permits the governing body to decide on an intersection that is named in the ordinance. The communities in which they have these red light cameras have blanket ordinances which essentially state any signalized intersection is hereby authorized to have the installation of a red light camera system. So what the next phase of this governing body is to discuss what intersection, which is named in this ordinance, which would be adopted or not adopted this evening, and solicit a vendor to provide a camera for that particular intersection. So it's not all of the intersections listed, although I think a vendor would probably be interested in doing that. But right now, essentially, the prior discussions have centered on one intersection, and that's our next step, is deciding what intersection to select to move forward.
Mr. Mayor?
I closed it.
Is there a discussion you spoke?
Yes, now I'm going to ask for an introduction, and then we second, and then we ask for discussion. So do I have a?
Whereas an ordinance amending supplemented chapter 432 of the Borough Code regarding the traffic control safety monitoring system is hereby adopted.
Do I have an introduction?
Second.
Discussion. I just would like to, Dr. Jordan has championed this cause, and at first I had similar concerns. But I will say that this is being tested. This is being tested as a beta test for 55 towns across New Jersey, and it's being looked at every which way. And at this point, it is absolutely our concern for safety. It's not about revenue. And I will tell you that in the town of Palisade Park, which I have a very close relationship with because the volunteer fire departments are very close to them, we have softball games and whatnot, that town has a full program. And you know that everyone in that town knows they need to stop at every light because they're going to get a ticket. It is absolutely the biggest thing going on in Palisade Park now. It's working. It's all about safety, and I am definitely for it.
Anyone else?
If I may add, yes, correct, that program has been very, very successful in Palisade Park, and it is about safety, but I will tell you that the revenue that they are currently generating is helpful, so, and it's welcome. So if people are going to, and if I could also add, we have a group of people that congregate at the Edgewater Commons every Thursday, especially during the summer, which has been a hassle to our police department, excuse me, including that of Bergen counties and Hudson counties. And unfortunately, we do not have enough people to follow, with sometimes amounts to hundreds of vehicles on a weekly basis up and down River Road. But this will help out. And, you know, if you're going to come to our town with your, little sports cars and you're going to start speeding up and down River Road, then you're going to be caught and you're going to pay for it.
Anyone else?
Just to those of you who walk those streets, the main streets and the side streets, whatever the traffic lights are, if you've done it enough times, you've seen many, many cars with blue red lights, and not just the first car or the second car, but the third car. 3 in a row. So if I had not, or people had not been paying attention and just would have stepped out, they're dead. So I don't want to be the one to notify someone who died from someone running a red light. That's just part of it, but it's been successful in many, many parts of New Jersey. Successful in terms of controlling traffic, and that's the whole idea of safety of the thing. So I hope we can move forward.
Technology, and can I also add one other thing, the technology is very advanced.
Well, just to piggyback everybody up here, I feel our police were low on manpower. And any help that we have to monitor our intersections, like you said, I know personally, if I received a ticket, I'd think twice about making trying to shoot through a red light. So I think it would improve greatly the safety of the intersections on River Road.
I have something to add to that if I can.
Go ahead.
I think, it may also help us with the violators of the, when people are in the crosswalk, they're not supposed to come behind and in front of them. And no one seems to be paying attention to that. So maybe we can, eventually use it in that manner also to see the cars that are not paying attention to the pedestrian in the crosswalk.
All right. Roll call?
Councilman Henley?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Rose?
Yes.
Motion adopted.
Second ordinance is 1473, 2012, an ordinance amending Chapter 347 of the General Ordinances of the Borough of Edgewater entitled Sanitary Sewer Overflow Elimination Plan. I'd like to open it to the public on 1473, 2012. Mr. Henry.
Was anybody ever addressed on the situation that happened for decades, where the Borough of Edgewater permitted people to erect new houses without any sewage, and but however, to arrange that sewage went in as raw sewage into the Hudson River. This permission was given by the Borough of Edgewater. Was there anybody ever questioned critically on that, ever?
I don't believe so. Not anybody sitting up here, Mr. Henry. Do you have anything in
Was
regards to
anybody ever?
1473, 2012?
Pardon me?
Do you have any questions in regards to
Well,
1473, 2012?
it's a sewage situation, and the borough has a history of approving that, obviously, and without criticism of any kind to any official, just the way the pollution came in, without criticism of any identified official. This is Edgewater. This is how it works.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the open portion on 1473, 2012.
Whereas an ordinance amended Chapter 347 of General Ordinances of the Borough of Edgewater entitled Sanitary Sewer Overflow Elimination Plan is hereby adopted.
Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Phil, could you give us a background on what's being asked of us?
Yes, Mayor. The Bergen County Utilities Authority has required all municipalities to be in compliance with their strict standards of inflow infiltration, where rainwater is finding its way into our sanitary systems, and all of that water gets treated at the Little Ferry facility in Bergen County, and that is very expensive to not only treat sanitary flow, but runoff that does not have to be treated. So in a way to save on the cost of treating unnecessary rainwater, they have asked that we introduce and adopt an ordinance that would discourage anyone from having their roof leaders connected to the sanitary system to avoid that additional cost that would require that to be treated. So we do that now, but it is an ordinance that the BCUA has recommended so that we are in compliance with their regulations. So that's what this does.
Anybody, anything further there? Roll call?
Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Rose?
Yes.
Motion to adopt passes.
Communications, petitions?
Yes, Mayor. We received, as you know, we've all discussed last week, there was a letter from the deputy clerk resigning her position as of June 7th, so she's already gone. And we'll be advertising for the position. The Edgewater Volunteer Fire Department has applied for a social affairs permit for their September 22nd, 2012 wet down for the new fire truck. And we received a thank you note from the Nicolaitis family in regard to thanking us for the sympathy bouquet of flowers we sent to the family on the death of their mom. And that's all I have. Just one other notice, in case you haven't noticed, beginning today, the Hudson County has begun their milling on River Road, and the project is expected to take 8 days, 4 milling, 4 days for milling, 4 days for paving. The plan is to start at the Edgewater North Bergen border and go south to Hillside Place. The coordinator, Jack Dempsey, has indicated to Police Captain Skidmore that they're going to maintain a two-way traffic, but the road will be coned down to one lane and one north and one lane south. The project work time is between 8 and 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The work will definitely cause traffic delays, and Mr. Dempsey is trying to work hard to cause less inconvenience to all, to keep the inconvenience at a minimum. His objective is to get the job done and, again, keep delays to a minimum. That's what I have here.
Next, we have ordinance number 1475, 2012, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 200, fire lanes, and Chapter 432, vehicles and traffic, to designate fire zones at various locations, to create a no parking, stopping, or standing zone on Orchard Street, and to create a no parking zone on Undercliff Avenue in the borough of Edgewater. Obviously, what the need for this is with the new school opening up in September, they want to make some changes up there. So, do we have any discussion? Do we have an introduction? Second?
Whereas an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 200, fire lane, and Chapter 432, vehicles and traffic, to designate fire zones at various locations, to create a no parking, stopping, or standing zone on Orchard Street, and to create a no parking zone on Undercliff Avenue in the borough of Edgewater, was introduced on June 18, 2012, and passes its first reading, and will be considered for final passage and public hearing on July 16th at 7:05 p.m. at this municipal building.
Roll call.
Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Rose?
Yes.
Motion to introduce passes.
All right, Councilman Henwood, you have a committee report.
Yeah, with regard to police, the chief has indicated his concern, not about the safety, it's not an issue of safety right now with the staffing levels of the police. They're getting the job done, but that's something as the summer proceeds, we're going to have to discuss and look real hard at, because the numbers are low. I know they're going to maybe just, well, let's just leave it at that. The numbers are low, and we need to work on that. And Thursday nights down the commons are pretty much under control. The town moved on to the location, and overtime we're looking at very hard as well. And he's giving us details on the overtime every month, which we requested in the whole effort that we are looking at the budget overall. And then with regard to construction, I will be talking to the mayor and Craig with regard to the concerns Mr. Kuczynski has as liaison.
Councilman Doran, do you have a committee report? Yes, I spoke with Kathy Fredo, just to give you an idea, they had 40 calls for the Edgewater EMS, and we had 48 for the Edgewater Volunteer Squad, for a total of 88 calls. Also spoke with Chief Volunteer Fire Department. They are going to be working with the Coast Guard on July 4th, which is coming up soon, the boat. They've had so far 5 calls regarding the boat that they've used in the Hudson. 2 were rescued. And